You feel good?
And remarkably, the answer might actually be yes.
That's the goal. You might want to live long, but even more important, you want to live well.
Mr. Duffy lived a long distance from his body. In case you're wondering, Mr. Duffy, he's a character in a series of short stories called The Dubliners, written by James Joyce. He was a middle-aged cashier, Mr. Duffy, and he lived a short distance from his body. How far do you live from your body? Do you love all those biofeedback devices, not just because you love the numbers and the tech, but because you're not actually fully there to notice yourself? Or do you actually inhabit your body? And I don't just mean exercise it, water it, feed it, push it around, scrutinise it, complain about it or show it off. I mean to be truly in and with your body. Or like me, do you tend to pop in and pop out? I suspect that many of us live at least a short distance from our bodies. How can you tell? Well, when you live away from your body, it's actually easier to mistreat it because you're not actually there to fully feel the consequences. And boy, do we have evidence of body neglect. You know the stats, but this time really let them sink in. When it comes to sleep, every night 40% of Australians are not getting enough sleep. When it comes to the one thing the body's designed to do, which is to move, 60% of us don't even eke out 30 minutes of moderate activity. And then when it comes to eating enough vegetables for good health, and by the way, how many serves are we meant to get each day? 5. We've been told for decades, haven't we? Guess how many eat 5 serves of vegetables each day? 4%. 96% of us do not. Now, what fascinates me about these stats is that health, education and IQ don't really seem to shift these behaviours nearly as much as they should. So let's go to Canberra, for example, which is home to the most highly educated people in the nation. Do we have any Canberrians here today with your double and triple degrees? Great. Are you any better at eating your 5 serves of vegetables each day? Well, yes, you are, but only by a measly 3%. So we still have 93% of well-educated Canberrians not getting their 5 a day. So well-educated, smart people can do dumb things when it comes to their body. So what's missing? Clearly, there's a lot missing. And clearly it takes more than just knowledge to change behaviour. But there is a living kind of intelligence that's different from IQ that is critical for bringing the body out of its state of neglect, and that's body intelligence, or BQ. And today I'm just going to talk about 2 dimensions. So the first dimension involves recognising the gob-smacking intelligence of the body itself. When you were first conceived, you were just a double strand of DNA. It replicated about 50 times only. And in those replications, we ended up generating over 30 trillion cells. That's more than all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. And those cells knew how to organise themselves into a human body that can walk, talk, solve problems, play an instrument, and make babies, all as a matter of course. And while it's doing that, the body is tracking the movement of the stars and the planets, the sun and the moon, synchronising our biological rhythms with the movement of the heavens. Now, don't you think that is truly deserving of the word awesome? And with awe comes respect and a willingness to listen rather than think that we know better. So those at the forefront of artificial intelligence, they're listening to and learning from the body, because today we know that intelligence is not just housed in the brain, but it's also found in our cells and our organs, which lends weight to this idea of embodied cognition, the fact that our body can play a role in thinking and decision-making. And so, in fact, intelligence requires a body. Just one example of what some AI scientists are working on. They're working to distribute intelligence all over their robots by creating materials that are capable of doing what the body can do, what the skin can do, for example. So the skin does not tell the brain every time our skin touches the clothes, because that'd drive us bonkers. So what the skin can do is to, yes, sense what's happening, but make up its own mind about what needs to go to control central and what doesn't. So it represents a kind of decentralized intelligence that AI scientists are working to imitate. So that's dimension one, how truly awesome this vehicle is. The second dimension involves our ability to have an intelligent relationship with the body, BQ. So the kind of body intelligence I'm talking about, it's not so much the kinesthetic or body intelligence that Howard Gardner put on the map in the 1980s with his theory of multiple intelligences. That tended more towards athletic ability or dexterity. What I'm talking about is the ability to notice our body sensations. Scientists call this our interoceptive awareness. Ability to notice internal signals, whether that's hunger, fullness, pressure, pain, breathing, for example. Somatic therapists might call it our felt sense. Then there's our ability to listen to our body and then to also respond, and to respond in an intelligent way, in a way that actually supports the functioning of the body. So why don't you just check out your BQ just briefly now? Your ability to notice. So don't we all notice what's happening inside our own skins? Well, some people can perceive their bodily sensations with a really high degree of accuracy and sensitivity. Others have developed the remarkable ability to disconnect from the body altogether. And that might be in response to trauma, or it can just be in response to everyday situations. So who, for example, can relate to, starting out at the computer in a beautiful posture, yep, nice open chest, and then in under 30 minutes, you're totally slouched, you're doing the turtle, you've pretzeled your legs, and you're barely breathing. And most importantly, you have no recollection. You have no recollection of how you got from here to here. Like body awareness lost in the clouds. Second one is our ability to listen. So this is actually a genuine attempt to try and understand what's happening in the body. And it might require you to create a bit of space to drop out of your head into your body and actually ask, how does this feel for my muscles or my stomach or my liver? Then there's responding. So when that first wave of tiredness descends at night time, do you use it as a cue to start winding down for bed? Or does your mind override and you go, oh goodness, it's only 8:30, I couldn't possibly go to bed yet, and you push on into the night watching more funny cat videos? I mean, have you seen that one where they use the cucumber to scare the cat into jumping 10 feet high? Has anyone seen that one? It is pretty funny. You've got to check that one out. You have, great. Let's go back to that first ability to notice our body sensations. Does it offer any real life advantages? And research does find associations between a higher IA and the regulation of weight and eating. And that makes sense, doesn't it? The better able you are to notice true hunger and fullness signals, that is going to help you eat the amount of food that is attuned to your body. It's also associated with a higher emotional intelligence. So every emotion is associated with a physical sensation in your body. So the better you are at noticing, for example, the butterflies in your stomach, the higher your emotional awareness. There are also associations with better decision making. So how does that work? Well, if you look at that web link at the bottom of the slide, you can go there for some more detailed reads and for a more technical explanation. But here's what makes sense to me. Just imagine you've just said yes to something when you really should have said no. Perhaps you've done that lately. How do you register that discrepancy? You will feel it as some stress-related symptom in your body. And if you paid attention to that and actually factored it into your decision-making process, you might just make more congruent decisions. Then there are also associations between a lower IA, certain mental health conditions, lower resilience and chronic pain. So there's no definitive conclusions as yet as to cause and effect, but it does start to paint a picture of the body and body intelligence being the foundation not only of our health, but also other intelligences. So what about right up the top there? SQ, spiritual intelligence. Can the body play a role in reconnecting us to the soul, or whatever your source of larger meaning, nature, God, the universe? In his teachings on somatic descent, religious scholar and Buddhist teacher Dr. Reggie Ray, he tells us that in some ancient practices found in Vajrayana traditions, Daoist meditations, other religions and yogas, that the human body and the totality of the universe are regarded as equivalent realities, made up of the same particles. You can consult quantum physics for that. And they differ only in scale. And he says that practices that help us to connect with and stay with the body can actually give us a direct experience of a vastness and a harmony that comes from actually feeling yourself as part of a larger whole. But look, whether you want to go for enlightenment or you just want to eat better, it does seem that connecting with the body, not just knowledge about it, has actually got a lot to offer. And that's why I think it's such a shame that on the whole, I reckon our collective BQ is getting dangerously low due to the many forces that nudge us into taking leave of our senses. I'm going to name just 3 today. So the first one is conditioning. Many of us from an early age are encouraged to ignore or override the body in order to achieve or get ahead or look good. The dieting culture has got a lot to answer for. Then there's the no pain, no gain approach to fitness. I'll always remember interviewing a 26-year-old young man. He was an AFL footballer, and at the age of 26, he was experiencing quite serious brain damage due to multiple concussions. And he said to me, "No one told me this could be a problem." And I thought, wow, we've created a body culture that so teaches these young men to be able to override their bodies that they can't work out for themselves, that smashing your head against another hard object repeatedly at high speed, that just might be a problem. And I wonder, do we need a national apology on that one? The second one is that the honesty of the body can be really confronting. Unlike the mind, the body doesn't lie, it doesn't fudge things, and we might not like what it's got to say. We might not want to stop and feel that beneath the caffeine, we're actually feeling exhausted, or that beneath the heavy or tight sensations around the chest, we might be feeling sad or anxious, so it's better just to keep going and not to listen. But then even if you do listen, you don't necessarily live happily ever after. Because if there's a backlog of body issues to attend to, you can actually feel worse before you feel better. Thirdly, and I don't know what you think about this one, but I think for many of us, trust in the body has been broken. Who here fears that if they let themselves have an afternoon nap, they'd never get up? Who fears that if they asked their body about what it would like to eat, you wouldn't just eat one chip, you'd inhale the pack and probably down a case of beer? Who here fears that if you ask your body how much exercise it would like to do, you would just become one with the couch? We have lost faith in the fact that the body is the master of self-regulation. Homeostasis is what it does. Every moment, second, every organ, every system. So do we actually need to stop blaming the body for our sloth and gluttony? I mean, is it really the body that ends us up on the couch like that? Or could there be other factors at play? Could it be our self-worth or unmet needs that we're trying to fill with, more food and screen time? So these factors and more can lead us away from our bodies, which also leads us away from knowing what true pleasure for the body is. So true pleasure is a deeper, more sustained experience than just the buzz we give our bodies from more sugar and caffeine and extreme sports, or the sedation of our senses through perhaps more alcohol, drugs, more screen time. I think poet Mary Oliver, in her poem Wild Geese, is actually inviting us to get to know what true body pleasure is, when in her poem Wild Geese she says you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. So BQ is the forgotten intelligence, I say, in our health and our education systems, and our lives are lesser for it. We can build BQ, and it's time to do that. And we can do it action learning style. So it's important to know that it takes more than mindfulness. So you're probably aware that body-based mindfulness will train you to bring awareness to the sensations of your body without judgment, and that's a great first step. But we also need to learn, how do you trust the body? And also, how can we respond to the body's needs, not by slamming it and smashing it and hacking it, but actually responding with a quality of true care, of the regard that this wondrous vehicle actually deserves. So to help you build your BQ, I'm going to leave you with 2 BQ challenges that are designed specifically to raise body trust. So the first one is to look for opportunities to act from what your body tells you rather than what your peers or the culture or even health experts tell you. If you feel meal hungry at 11, eat lunch now rather than say, oh, it's not lunchtime. Or if you're feeling depleted on the first day of your menstrual cycle, go gently, despite your schedule. If you're at the gym one day and 14 repetitions feels about the right amount of stretch today rather than 15, live life dangerously and stop at 14 and see how your body responds for the rest of the day. The second BQ challenge, and this is if you really want to up your level of body trust. Next time you can't quite decide about something, come to stillness, pose the issue to your body, and listen for a visceral response. Recognizing yes and no in the body, that is such a powerful life skill, and it has many applications. Imagine, for example, how it might help equip young girls around the issue of sexual consent. Now, just a few qualifiers. This listening to your body business, it isn't always as easy as 1, 2, 3. There are subtleties and there are complexities. As in the case of addiction, for example, where cravings might get carved into your biochemistry, so you might feel a craving like a body-based message that needs responding to. Or in the case of chronic pain, where the system becomes overprotective and you might feel pain before your tissues are actually in danger of injury. However, imagine if we had just a 10% improvement in adherence to that ancient piece of Zen wisdom, eat when hungry, rest when tired, rather than eat when tired. Imagine how some of those national health statistics might shift. So with more and more of our culture moving towards disembodiment, today people are opting out of their own bodies into virtual reality, not only to ride bikes, but also have relationships and do porn. More of us are at risk of ending up like Mr. Duffy. So the fate of Mr. Duffy wasn't a happy one. Living away from his body, as he did, his emotional intelligence wasn't good. And unable to connect with his true feelings, he rejects his one chance of love. And at the end of the book, Mr. Duffy recognizes how utterly lonely he is. And that's what happens when you live away from your body. Your house will be empty, and yes, you will be lonely, and no amount of food, fitness, virtual reality, or distraction will erase that ache. So I invite you, in whatever small way you can, just come a little closer to your body and discover what the soft animal of your body truly loves. Thank you.